So hello, Ron and Monon here, and welcome to my review episode 3 of Gamers. I found that on a really good episode. The only thing I really clawed is that there was no gaming, right? I think that's the issue, yeah. Like, it's really funny, great romantic comedy, and the gaming part they had was really hilarious. Reminded me of Big Bang Theory, reminded me of Genshin a bit, reminded me of Boku wa Tomodachi, it's called, that anime with like, I have no friends, so I can't make friends. Because I really loved how they made sense of it, because they were like, they probably never had any real friends, like they're network people, but they're very active on internet forums, Twitter, something like that. So they're doing like flame wash, Twitter wash all the time, and then suddenly they meet each other in real life and become instant best friends, and then they meet this young show, they're like, I don't agree with you on Moe stuff, and suddenly it's like, I will never talk to you again, you're blocked, I banned you from my life, yeah, and they get into that, right, and they're so weirdly cute and funny here. When he tried to meditate with them later on there, he's like, why do you hate each other? He's like, that girl, I'm a loner, so I don't get this, I stay alone. That really reminds me of that, like, the anime with, like, Boku no Tomodachi, where it's like, I can't make friends because I have no friends kind of thing, right? Because clearly they're both like, we are loners. And he's like, yeah, okay, but now you met each other, so you can be friends. No, not with him anymore. I'd rather be a loner. I don't get this relationship thing. So that was great in that sense. But also the actual discussion, something I can relate to a lot. I mean, I've been at school, college, right? And we got a lot of discussions about both anime, manga, games, and so on, TV shows, etc. Right? And also, of course, sometimes coursework, but usually not. More that is like, how can you say that Spider-Man will lose to Batman? Obviously, he will win, yeah, and those kind of stuff, right? So, of course, however, though, I'm more for what the bridge guy, so I kind of leave that to the next debate. I was like, okay, I agree with you, and then next time, even though it's very heated, I can be like, whatever, as soon as the debate ends, I think. But they, of course, are anime characters, so they're very quirky, and like, I'd rather have no friends the rest of my life, as I will have anyway. And it's like, yep, you probably don't have any friends. But anyway, that was really fun. That was definitely the best part of the episode. So I wish there was more of that, more expert games. However, though, the anime does this really weird stuff that I like. But it's weird. Like the banana thing in episode 1, that was so funny. And this episode, we see, and I really want to mention this, because it's very weird. We see Tendou, where he enters the room, right? She's like, Amano-kun, why are you here? Looking for this girl. No! And it becomes this petrified form, and then he's like, yeah. And he's like, it's probably just some kind of school thing. He's like, no, I want to be friends with her, and he just dies, right? And because it's like dust. And that's what we see on the anime, right? And it's like, a way to exaggerate, a way to, really push this feel in the emotions of the characters, right? So fine, sure, whatever. But then he steps on her. That's so weird, this anime. He steps on her. She's on the ground as this like dust, right? And he's like walking on the dust. He's like, oh, what happened to Tendou-san? Like she died, like literally died. And we hear this sound of it, like a stepping on like a muddy bones or something. And this is so weird. It's funny, but it's really weird. And I really want to point it out because that matched with the banana thing. Like the banana thing was super hilarious. Like they're throwing in this like random game references. Like he killed me with his stone attack, and then he jumped on me. Yeah, like what? Yeah, so really, really funny. They had this like weird out of the world kind of thing there, and of course he didn't care about it. He was like, oh, why is it like dust here? And he kept, kind of like, huh? He sees the dust? Because obviously I as a viewer expect it to be like, oh yeah, we see the dust thing, because it's like a very showcasing of her emotions. Yeah, it's like, no, he can see the dust. What? he knows the meta stuff? So that was really weird. Similar, I guess, though, when Aguri sees them talking there, and she's super angry, and sees those red things, and he's like, man, I can really see those. I can see that, like, she's so pissed. I can see the red anger, almost. It always doesn't matter like that. But generally, it's really fun, of course, but weird. I said it in episode 1, 2 weeks ago, and I was like, man, this anime, they really do this weird joke sometimes. It's like this, the banana thing. Or that's just like, oh, I played Bowser, and he was like, nice to me that happened. I'm pretty sure it happened. Like, they're kind of out there, but I like it. It's different, but it also gets a little silly, though, sometimes. Different, though. Anyway, back to the story now. So the story, of course, is that, he puts them up. Obviously, this new girl, Chiaki. Obviously, she's Mono-san, his internet best friend, right? They team up, hate each other after 1 minute, become best friends again, and then go back and forth. That was great, and definitely reminded me of Kiss Him, Not Me, where the main character gets her first girlfriend, right? Or after she's beautiful, and they're best friends for like 3-4 episodes, and then it's like, no, you don't. You're like, oh, it's what is it? Who's the bottom and who's the top of this relationship? Yeah, of this Uke-Sake thing. Oh, he's Sake, no, he's the Uke, and then they're like worst enemies ever, and they're trying to kill each other pretty much for an episode, right? I mean, of that. But that being said, that's kind of the main thing, right? But the other part then is, of course, Aguri being very confused, which I also would be. The last part, though, I think was very predictable. I think it's very, very obvious. And I have to comment, people spoiled me anyway, but I think this is very obvious regardless, even if I didn't spoil that clearly he's like, oh, I should send this to Mono-san. And then they look out and they see Mono-san, clearly to her, taking up the phone, right? Just at that moment, she's like, oh, a phone, yeah. And just when he's like, you get a phone call. And then they're taking a photo. And then Mason looks at they're taking a photograph, of course, of like a couple photograph, like a memory of that. And Aguri is like, life over. But I really love Aguri. Maybe because I love Gyaru girls, and you see my submit to the Gyaru use. No, but obviously I love Gal Gyarus. But I think I like her in many aspects because she's a very like nicely emotionally overstated character. She's always like, oh, I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna this, and then she's depressed. She really looks like life is over. She really, she's a great character. Really showcase different emotions. I think. And Tendou-san as well, but Tendou-san is more like Tendou-san's emotions are more shown so far through animations, right? Like animation of weird, like banana petrification, more like it's like out of this world, like slapstick anime things thrown in there. Aguri is more shown by body language, more like actual. This is kind of more human. She also does a thing come white, so obviously the anime goes for that a lot. But I'll say it's more like that. I think I like it more, I suppose. Then it makes it more classical anime, I suppose. But generally, I think it's good. But both of them have very similar roles right now, though. That's probably my real problem with anime. This episode, excluding that maybe should be more gaming, is that probably, I would say at least, that Aguri and Tendou-san, they have a very similar position right now, right? They're both confused about the guy they like. Not exactly the same, but very similar. And both of them are like, oh, this other girl is trying to like infiltrate, trying to get into my relationship, trying to ruin it for me, right? And they both have that kind of jealousy kind of thing going on. Not exactly the same starting position. The other one is already dating Tasuku, right? So yeah, she's not dating but she probably could date about easily ask her. But yeah, they have that kind of thing, of course. They're quite similar, actually. So it's a romantic relationship anime primarily, more than a gaming anime for sure. And right now, two of the main girls have, I'll say, very similar positions. So that's a little weak there. It's probably the only real bad stuff. I won't say that bad per se, because it probably will differ more from them later on, the more episode goes right now. And obviously he's gonna get in there with Aguri for a bit and so on, which is interesting. Tendou is more on a far edge loop, yeah, and he's confused. Very confused. That was great though. That joke was so good. And he said, aren't you meeting Tendou every day? I mean, she kind of likes you. And he's like really pushing there, like, you and Tendou could be a couple. And he's like, I never talked to her, but I do see her often like my edge eye care. I see her a lot in like the peripheral view of me. He's like, yeah, that sounds normal. It's like, yeah, she has some problems. Like, basically, like, obviously it's implying that I do see her actually every day, but she's always like hiding in the corner somewhere close. It's weird. And he's like, yeah, she's stalking you as like a fucking perv, but yeah, maybe you should talk to her, I suppose. She's the prettiest girl at school after all. I mean, obviously, Tasuku is like, yeah, she's a lunatic. She's a loon, but she's the prettiest girl at school, so maybe we should do it anyway. Maybe you should talk to her anyway. Like, whatever, you just go with it. And he's like, what do you mean? Oh, god damn it, like, he's trying to help him. It's like, she likes you idiot, she stalks you. She like yonder likes you. Freaking just deal with it, man. Right? Just either do it or just whatever, or be scared of your life pretty much. No, but that was fun as well. Prediction then. I don't. It's interesting though. He got her to cut her hair, so Mono or Chiaki, she likes him though. So there is a triangle drama there. I mean, Aguri has the right to be jealous. Actually, quite interesting in that sense. Well, interesting, but actually most animes, I would say, not like a horror anime, but this kind of like more characters in some kind of weird, whatever pentagram views of relationship. They usually have the things that it's more misunderstandings usually, right? Like for Tendou, she's the one that likes Amano, but there's actually no girls who likes Amano except her. So she actually has no worries to be jealous or envy or someone, because she's actually the only one that actually wants to be with him. So that's typical misunderstand situation we have, right? And that's very common in anime. And usually you can have several of those in this kind of weird, whatever shape. But here I have to say though, which is interesting somewhat to this, or is more, I guess, more different than this. She actually should be jealous, because obviously Chiaki wants him. So they actually have like a triangle drama there. But I mean, it's different though than normally anime does it, because usually the main character has it towards him, right? So Amano should be he's the main character. He should be the hard position, having 2 or 3 girls at him, right? And he's trying to order that shit out. But this is more like the main character. He spots it. He's even aware of this, trying to help her, saying no, they're actually dating and so on. And he's trying to like help her. So this is like we see it from another angle, much more objective angle than we usually do, because this triangle drama isn't aimed at the main character at all. It's aimed at the other character, right? And he's even really aware of it. So I think that actually makes it different than how we usually do in anime. And she's supposed to be jealous, because she wants him, right? She got her hair for him, so that's how. I thought first that Amano was gonna be the one to get her hair to be cut off, right? He's just like, oh, you ugly seaweed monster kind of woman, and she should be like, I'm gonna show you. Instead, it's him. It's like, you were pretty in short hair. Really, I wouldn't. And she go cut her hair. And that is, yeah, he's a pretty boy, all right. He got 2 girls to chase their appearance, so he has the way the ladies, right, for sure. But yeah, it definitely is a triangle drama for them instead. And then I guess poor Tendou doesn't understand that Amano isn't interested in either of those ladies. But maybe he's interested in Aguri the more time goes, so maybe. Episode 1, they hinted a lot on that in the beginning though. So, yeah, perhaps. But I guess we have to see next week and see how it goes. But I think the opposite was predictable though, that he was gonna send her a text, she picks it up, and at the same moment it looks weird because whatever, right? That's very, very classical how you write something, right? It's like character does A, and it happens to exactly happen over here, that creates massive confusion. So primarily it's a confusion relationship anime, right? Which is very common, I have to say. It's funny, but it's not the biggest thing though. So that's my little worry, right? They have a lot of, it's like there's a lot of games, but it's like, nah, the gaming is kind of the frame around the relationship drama. So I hope there will be more gaming. And not that it has had it, but I think it would be interesting if they could use the gaming with relationship anime. I don't say how they would do it, but like let's say they play a more begins together, right? And it'd be like, no, you should be that could be interesting. See more of that stuff as well, so that could be interesting, and so on. It's on top of my head. Anyway, see you next week. Have a good